Tonight, in a story you will only see on the news leader. They say they feel like they're drowning, 4 times the normal workload, frozen wages, and several months without hired leaders.
These are some of the issues workers are citing at Cass County's Child Protective Services. WDAY News reporter Nick Broadway joins us live tonight after spending weeks digging into this story and talking with current and former employees. Nick?
Dana, Kirsten, these are the public exit interviews from CPS in Cass County, which outline the quadrupling workloads, shrinking team, and lack of resources. We sat down with the former employee and current CPS leadership, learning what it's like on the front lines and how leadership's trying to fix it all. Cases range from child neglect to malnutrition and sex abuse. Child Protective Services sees the unthinkable, working under this mission.
Provide the best services to families, and they have the goal of reunification or safety in mind.
But in the past few years, it's becoming more challenging to give each case the attention it deserves. WDAY News requested multiple exit interviews, all indicating the normal workload per employee is about 10 cases at a time. This year, multiple employees say they're dealing with more than 40, sometimes upwards of 50 cases each. The intense stress and overwhelming workload has led many to quit, some longtime veterans who spent decades in the department.
If you try to say, hey, I'm drowning, they'll remind you of your probation period.
We spoke with the former employee who asked us to conceal their identity for fear of retribution. This person worked at CPS for several years, watching the caseloads increase exponentially as their pay was frozen, the weight of the trauma-filled workload leading to quick burnout.
When you have that on your shoulder and you feel like you're doing a crappy job and you know you're drowning, it's not something that you want to go to work for.
It's left many cases on the back burner, leaving many children in dangerous situations without the help they need. When we asked, the employee tells us there are some cases that don't get seen.
Yes, 100%, they do just sit.
The former worker told me outside contractors would get pulled in to help the ever-shrinking team, but it didn't help.
It just doesn't make a dent, and it's not what we ask them to implement as frontline workers. It's what they get from people who are not CPS workers.
Combing through the exit interviews, there are comments about a lack of communication, hostile work environment, inadequate training, and the growing caseloads bringing on incredible stress due to the constantly shrinking team. We spoke to CPS leaders about these interviews. While working to recruit more workers, they're trying to deal with high caseloads by prioritizing them into 3 categories.
Cases have a priority when we get them, A, B, and C.
Even they admit more than 40 cases per worker is a heavy load.
It's not ideal, and we're working through that right now in terms of ensuring we have capacity, but we're going to get through it.
Some exit interviews say they didn't have a supervisor during their final year on the job.
Is there a department head in CPS?
We have a family services manager.
Okay.
Who just was hired 3 months ago, or 3 weeks ago, just on board.
Just now.
That position had been vacant since I came on board, so in January.
Gail Bollinger says it takes multiple months to train someone in, making it tough to fill gaps when an employee puts in a 2-week notice. The anonymous worker tells me fixing the problems means more than just promising recruitment, saying they need funding and serious help from the state of North Dakota.
That's great that you gave us a philosophy of families first and keep the families together, but we're drowning. We don't have the tools to implement that.
In the county with nearly a quarter of the state's population, Bollinger says they're doing what they can to fill roles. But until those roles are filled, the children are the ones paying the price. Bollinger says their goal is to overstaff to ensure they have enough people working on cases even as they're training new hires.
And why did your anonymous interview think it was so important to come forward?
You know, in this world where the adults are dealing with the workplace politics, this person came forward because it's the children who are suffering the most through this problem. They're the ones that need the services that they're not getting, simply put.
The most important thing to remember in this story. And how long before the CPS leaders feel like they can turn it around and have enough staff to work with this?
I did ask CPS leadership this, and they don't have a time frame. I mean, it's something that they're working diligently to fill, but they can't get a scope of when they'll have enough staff, of when this problem will get resolved. Could be months, could be years, who knows?
All right. Thank you, Nick. Nice work.
Good reporting.